Okay, good evening. We're back with 2 Kings chapter 8. The woman from Shunem returns home. Elisha had told the woman whose son he had brought back to life, "Take your family and move to some other place, for the Lord has called for a famine on Israel that will last for 7 years." So the woman did as the man of God instructed her. She took her family and lived in the land of the Philistines for 7 years. After the famine ended, she returned to the land of Israel, and she went to see the king about getting back her house and land. As she came in, the king was talking with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God. The king had just said, "Tell me some stories about the great things Elijah has done." And Gehazi was telling the king about the time Elijah had brought the boy back to life. And at that very moment, the mother of the boy walked in to make her appeal to the king. "Look, my lord," Gehazi exclaimed, "here's the woman now, and this is her son, the very one Elisha brought back to life." "Is this true?" the king asked her, and she told him that it was. So he directed one of his officials to see to it that everything she had lost was restored to her, including the value of any crops that had been harvested during her absence. Hazael murders Ben-Hadad. Now Elisha went to Damascus, the capital of Aram, where King Ben-Hadad lay sick. Someone told the king that the man of God had come. When the king heard the news, he said to Hazael, "Take a gift to the man of God and tell him to ask the Lord if I will get well again." So Hazael loaded down 40 camels with the finest products of Damascus as a gift for Elisha. He went into him and said, "Your servant Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, has sent me to ask you if he will recover." And Elisha replied, "Go and tell him, you will recover, but the Lord has shown me that he will actually die." Elisha stared at Hazael with a fixed gaze until Hazael became uneasy. Then the man of God started weeping. "What's the matter, my lord?" Hazael asked. Elisha replied, "I know the terrible things you will do to the people of Israel. You will burn their fortified cities, kill their young men, dash their children to the ground, and rip open their pregnant women." Then Hazael replied, "How can a nobody like me ever accomplish such a feat?" But Elisha answered, "The Lord has shown me that you are going to be the king of Aram." When Hazael got back, the king asked, "What did Elijah tell you?" And Hazael replied, "He told me that you will surely recover." But the next day, Hazael took a blanket, soaked in water, and held it over the king's face until he died. Then Hazael became the next king of Aram. Jehoram rules in Judah. Jehoram, son of King Josaphat of Judah, began to rule over Judah in the 5th year of King Joram's reign in Israel. Joram was the king of Ahab. Jehoram was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Israel 8 years. But Jehoram followed the example of the king of Israel and was as wicked as King Ahab, for he had married one of Ahab's daughters. So Jehoram did what was evil in the Lord's sight, but the Lord was not willing to destroy Judah, for he had made a covenant with David and promised that his descendants would continue to rule forever. During Jehoram's reign, the Edomites revolted against Judea and crowned their own king. So Jehoram went with all his chariots to attack the town of Zar. The Edomites surrounded him and his chariots, but he escaped at night under covered darkness. Jehoram's army, however, deserted him and fled. Edom had been independent from Judea to this day. The town of Libnah revolted about the same time. The rest of the events of Jehoram's reign and all his deeds are recorded in the book of the history of the king of Judea. When Jehoram died, he was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. Then his son Ahijah became the next king. Ahijah rules in Judea. Ahijah, son of Jehoram, began to rule over Judea in the 12th year of King Joram's reign in Israel. King Joram was the son of Ahab. Ahijah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 year. His mother was Athaliah, a granddaughter of King Omri of Israel. Ahaziah followed the evil example of King Ahab's family, doing what was evil in the Lord's sight because he was related to by marriage to the family of Ahab. Ahaziah joined King Joram of Israel in his war against King Hazael of Aram at Ramoth Gilead. When King Jehoram was wounded in the battle, he returned to Jezreel to recover from his wounds. While King Jehoram was there, King Asa of Judea went to visit him. 2 Kings chapter 9. Judah anointed king of Israel. Meanwhile, Elisha the prophet had summoned a member of the group of prophets. Get ready to go to Ramoth Gilead, he told them. Take this vial of olive oil with you and find Judah, son of Jehoshaphat, and the grandson of Nimshi. Call him to a back room away from his friends and pour oil over his head. Say to him, this is what the Lord says, I anoint you to be the king over Israel. Then open the door and run for your life. So the young prophet did as he was told and went to Ramoth Gilead. When he arrived there, he found Judah sitting in the meeting with the other army officers. I have a message for you, commander, he said. For which one of us? Judah asked. For you, commander, he replied. So Judah left the others and went into the house. Then the young prophet poured the oil over Judah's head and said, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, said. I anointed you king over the Lord's people Israel. You are to destroy the families of Ahab your master. In this way I will avenge the murder of my prophets and all the Lord's servants who were killed by Jezebel. The entire family of Ahab must be wiped out, every male, slave, and free alike in Israel. I will destroy the family of Ahab as I destroy the families of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and Baasha, son of Ahijah. Dogs will eat Ahab's wife, Jezebel, at the plot of the land of Jezreel, and no one will bury her. Then the young prophet opened the door and ran. Judah went back to his fellow officers, and one of them asked them, what did the crazy fellow want? Is everything all right? You know the way such a man babbles on, Judah replied. You're lying, they said. Tell us. So Judah told him what the man had said, and that the Lord's command he had been anointed king over Israel. They quickly spread out their cloaks on the bare steps and blew a trumpet, shouting, Judah is king. Judah kills Joram and Ahaziah. So Judah, son of Jehoshaphat and grandson of Nimshi, formed a conspiracy against King Joram. Now Joram had been with the army of Ramoth Gilead, defending Israel against the forces of King Hazael of Aram. But Joram had been wounded in the fighting and had returned to Jezreel to recover from his wounds. So Judah told the man with him, since you want me to be king, don't let anyone escape from Jezreel to report what we have done. Then Judah got into a chariot and rode to Jezreel to find King Joram, who was lying there wounded. King Ahaziah of Judea was there too, for he had gone to visit him. The watchman of the tower of the Jezreel saw Jehu and his company approaching, so he shouted to Joram, I see a company of troops are coming. Send out a rider to find out if they are coming in peace. King Joram shouted back. So the rider went out to meet Judah and said, the king wants to know whether you're coming in peace. Judah replied, what do you know about peace? Get behind me. The watchman called out to the king, the rider has met them, but he is not returning. So the king sent out a second rider. He rode up to them and demanded, the king wants to know whether you come in peace. Again Judah answered, what do you know about peace? Get behind me. The watchman explained, the rider has met them, but he isn't returning either. It must be Judah, son of Nimshi, for he is driving so recklessly. Quick, get my chariot ready, King Jehoram commanded. Then King Jehoram of Israel and King Ahaziah of Judea rode out in their chariots to meet Judah. They met him in the field that had belonged to Naboth of Jezreel. King Jehoram demanded, do you come in peace? Jehu replied, how can there be peace as long as the adultery and witchcraft of your mother Jezebel are all around us? Then King Jehoram reined the chariot horses around and fled, shouting to King Ahaziah, treason, Ahaziah. Then Judah drew his bow and shot Jehoram between the shoulders. The arrow pierced his heart, and he sank down dead in his chariot. Okay, with that, I'll be back later to finish the rest.